So picture this. I'm 44 years old and living in San Francisco. I've been married 8 years, but I've been with my husband for 18, since the ripe young age of 26. Because why try other people before committing to our whole lives together? I work at a magazine and he works at a law firm, and we have a super cute little 2-bedroom flat with hardwood floors and a fireplace. But I'm not staying there at the moment. I'm staying a few miles away at a place called One Taste with about 30 other people. One Taste's founder calls this place an urban commune because it's 2008. If it were, say, 1968, it would be called a sex commune. And there'd be lots of hash and lots of big hairy bushes. But One Taste is drug and alcohol-free, vegetarian, offers daily yoga classes, and the pubic hair is minimal. Imagine a sex party at Lululemon. One Taste's philosophy is that we need to slow sex down and really pay attention, and that the focus of all that attention should be the clitoris. So along with the daily quinoa salads and nonstop herbal tea, there are several sessions a day of what's called Orgasmic Meditation, which looks like this. We gather in a big room. The women take their pants off and lie back on yoga mats. The men sit beside them, and a timer goes off. For exactly 15 minutes, each man silently and as gently as possible strokes the woman's clitoris. The timer rings, the women sit up, the partners exchange feedback about the sensations and emotions that occurred, then everyone goes about their day. The first question everyone asks is, do the women have orgasms right there in a room full of people? From what I could tell, most didn't. I didn't, which really pissed me off at first. Until I noticed that on the days I did orgasmic meditation, my physical and emotional energy was amazing. It was like starting the day with a great workout and sailing through it in high spirits until bedtime. Orgasmic meditation removes the goal of climax and helps you simply become aware of each sensation. Luckily, it just so happens to get your sexual energy flowing and makes for a really pleasant day. Second question people ask, what do the guys get out of it? Where are the penises? They get to live with a bunch of women whose sexual energy is constantly running on high. So morning clit rubs notwithstanding, why am I living at a sex commune at the age of 44 instead of with my husband? Because I've initiated an open marriage and a year of sexual exploration, so I can try to fulfill a few of my fantasies before I get any older. Before my husband, I'd only had 3 lovers. And the list of things I'd never tried was vastly longer than the list of things I had. No one-night stands, no college lesbian experiments, no finger in the ass, not even remotely festive positions like cowgirl. Don't get me wrong, I had good sex with my husband, very loving and very vanilla. Going on a sexcapade was actually my second choice. About 2 years prior, when I was 42, I was begging my husband to get me pregnant. The more I begged, the more he dug in his heels. We'd been arguing about it since I was 38 when my biological clock kicked in, and we were stuck. I wanted a kid, he didn't, but neither of us wanted to get divorced. For one thing, I knew I couldn't handle having a kid on my own. And I didn't want any old baby from any old dude. I wanted my husband's baby. For my husband's part, he didn't want a kid, but he didn't want a new wife either. So there we were, stuck in a dilemma that neither of us had the guts to walk away from. And then one day, my period is late. I go to Walgreens and buy a pregnancy test. I make sure to get the digital kind that very clearly says pregnant or not pregnant, because I'm so nervous, I don't trust myself to decipher all those little lines. I pee on the stick, and when it beeps, I pick it up, and it says pregnant. My husband's at work. I call my best friend, and she's asking me how I feel, and I'm saying, I don't know how I feel. But I happen to look up into the mirror as I'm talking, and I see that I'm smiling without being aware of it. Then I say, oh my God, Susan, I won. I can't believe it, I fucking won. I don't know what that means. It's just coming out of my mouth. I get dressed and head to work, and as the train rumbles toward downtown, I'm thinking, now it all comes together. Now I take really good care of my health. Now I have a solid role in the world. Now I have something bigger than me to devote myself to. Now I find out what it really means to be a woman. I had a feeling of optimism that morning I'd never had before. But here's a little surprise that you probably guessed from my earlier story about my clit. I wasn't actually pregnant. Or I was and had what they call a chemical miscarriage because I go to my doctor for a blood test and it comes back negative. In the few days it takes for the test results to come back, when we believe I'm pregnant, my husband becomes so depressed that I'm shocked. I had this idealistic notion that he was just afraid to pull the trigger, and that once I became pregnant, he'd feel happiness. But he's actually more depressed than I've ever seen him, so much so that when we go see a therapist, the same day I find out I'm not pregnant, he announces he's getting a vasectomy. I turn to him and say, "Do it. Get a vasectomy. I support you." Because the past 3 days have proven that I should not have a child with him, which means I'm not going to have a child. I'm already going on 43. I say, from this moment on, we're in this marriage to support each other's individual goals. All other bets are off. And that's how I end up in various studio apartments around town, taking moody selfies late at night. And finally at a sex commune. Of course, it took many months to negotiate the terms of an open marriage. We considered limiting side action only to business trips out of town. But who has the energy to manage a one-night stand from an airport hotel? We settled on a plan for me to sublet a studio during the week and then return home on weekends. We instilled a don't ask, don't tell policy and 3 rules. Always use a condom, don't sleep with any mutual acquaintances, and don't get seriously involved. He ended up breaking 2 of them. I ended up breaking all 3. People always ask me, how did an open marriage substitute for kids? Let me try to break it down. My Catholic upbringing was still buried deep in my psyche. That shit never goes away, no matter how much therapy you do. And it felt like my 2 deepest experiences of womanhood, the 2 deepest expressions of womanhood, were childbirth and sexual abandon. Virgin Mary or Mary Magdalene. Never mind that I happen to be a feminist and a dedicated career woman who knows that women can be soldiers and CEOs and presidential candidates. The 2 raw experiences I wanted to know as a woman were mother and whore. If I was smart, I would have done what most women do, be a whore in my 20s and then get serious about motherhood in my 30s. But I fell in love before I got a chance to whore around, and I was 38 before my maternal drive kicked in. I realized I could give up one of these experiences, but not both. So I ended up racing the clock because, let's face it, there's a definite time limit on these archetypes. Short of a scientific miracle, you can't become a biological mother when you're 50. And you can't really become a whore either. I mean, you could try. So there I am, practicing orgasmic meditation 3 mornings a week before I go wash up in the co-ed shower and head off to my magazine job. In between hooking up with guys at One Taste, I've also taken an ad out on nerve.com. This was before Tinder. And I'm meeting all kinds of guys and learning all kinds of things, like how much easier it is to be nasty with a stranger than with my husband, and what a natural I am at dirty talk, and how much I like to be slapped on the ass and have my hair pulled. It feels good. I sleep with the woman for the first time and orgasm in under 5 minutes, and I think, that's been my problem. I'm gay. I have my first threesome with a man and a woman, and it is so incredibly hot and so strangely removed as I compare myself to the other woman, who's much wilder. Then she and I make a date for just the 2 of us, and I buy a strap-on, which teaches me that a strap-on, no matter how thick and nicely shaped, and even with a super hot woman wearing it, is no match for a human penis. And then I remember why I'm not gay. Meanwhile, my husband, who's 9 years older than me, starts regularly seeing a woman 10 years younger. I don't know the details except for the one time I looked at his phone and saw her address. I find myself driving through her neighborhood every now and then, like once a week, maybe twice, 3 times, kind of hoping to see them. My plan was to observe from a distance, because even though I'd been with him a long time, my husband had always remained a sort of mystery to me. I thought I might learn something watching him from afar, but I never saw them. You can probably guess how the story ends, the way it usually does when one of your long-married friends announces, "Jim and I have decided to try an open marriage." I eventually meet someone that I also start seeing regularly, and I fall in love, and then I have to choose. I end up leaving my husband, for which I still feel daily guilt 7 years later. Eventually, I write a book about the open marriage and this connection between maternal and sexual urge. The book comes out, and I start getting messages like this on Twitter. I'll give you a few seconds to take in their eloquence. I just wonder if Stonebone is Jack's real last name. Something tells me no. So full circle, I move in with my boyfriend, we move to LA, I get over my premenopausal desire to have a baby and get a rescue dog instead. Why didn't anybody tell me about the rescue dog thing sooner? My ex-husband and I are friends. He has a new girlfriend, not the one whose house I used to drive by. She's perfect for him. She has a thing for guys with vasectomies. I'm monogamous again, and I'm no longer restless. I've done what I needed to do. I was a good girl for 44 years. I was a faithful girlfriend and wife for 18. I was a whore for 1 year, more or less. And I was a mother, or at least I felt like a mother, for that couple of days between my at-home pregnancy test and my blood test. Now I'm just another middle-aged broad with a colorful past and some hard-won wisdom. But I've given birth to a book. I've survived being slut-shamed on Twitter. And I've put my bucket list to bed.